Picture of that. See if we can't record a little bit of this for Mark. Recording? There's a group.
It's right over here. Wait a minute. Well, I know where it is.
How many people here golf? Raise your hand. You got to envy this son of a gun. This guy goes to all the big ones. All the big ones. First of all, I'm sure people Mark think this guy sits and eats the hot dogs and watches 4 days of tournaments and gets to see Tiger and gets to see all these big shots. Explain exactly what do you do as the chairman of the PGA of America Rules Committee?
Eat hot dogs and watch 4 days of golf.
Just like sports writers.
Sit in the golf cart. I have friends who actually do like to eat a lot of ice cream while they officiate. It's a much slower pace, you know, than other sports, so there isn't a lot of running around when you officiate at golf. So you can actually sit in a golf cart and do that. But we, as rules officials at golf tournaments, as officials like to say, you know, we have hours of boredom that are interrupted by moments of sheer terror. Because when our calls come, we never know quite exactly what it's going to be. A referee that's in a sport like hockey's in a confined 200 by 85 ice surface, or in a football field, that's a confined surface, and so the officials know what's going on. But in golf, you can get called into situations, and you have to sort of solve them when you get called into them. So that's kind of what happens.
You obviously started as a golfer, and most golfers could care less about the rules. What got you interested in being on a rules committee?
I did, you're right, I did start as a golfer, and I usually always cared about the rules. That was kind of the way I was. But what got me started in the rules was that I knew that when I got into the golf business, that this could be an avenue for me to be involved at a level that I would never have been involved in as a player. In other words, I didn't have the playing talent to, say, play the PGA Tour, but I knew that if I pursued officiating, it was something that I enjoyed anyway, and I really did have an interest in the rules of golf. I always had sort of that background when I was going to school. I was good at English and history and things like that, and so when I got involved in the golf business, the rules came maybe a little more naturally to me. But I knew that if I pursued it and officiated and worked my way up, that maybe I could do something that I couldn't have done as a player.
Now, how long have you been a rules official, Mark?
Well, I started at a local level in the early 80s, involved in Michigan section PGA events. My first national event when I was appointed to the PGA of America Rules Committee was the 1990 PGA Championship, which was at Shoal Creek in Birmingham, Alabama. Won by Wayne Grady. There's a trivia question that Alondra may not know the answer to, but that's who won the 1990 PGA.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. Let's see how good you are. There's got to be a rule book out there. How many stinking rules are in that book?
There's 34 rules in the rules.
There's only 34?
Yeah, there's only 34. It's a fairly complicated book, and there's a sort of a companion to it, which is called Decisions on the Rules of Golf, which is a much thicker book. And it's sort of like if you ever took a business law class in college, it's sort of like case studies and questions and answers. And so that's what's contained in that book.
Is there one rule that comes up the most?
Well, I would say simple rules for players like who hit balls in water hazards or out of bounds or things like that. Those would certainly come up more than others. But the ones that kind of keep you on your toes are the unique or strange ones that happen.
The strangest ones. Give me two of the strangest, the most.
Without putting the rest of the group to sleep.
We're sleeping already? We're up here, Mark.
Yeah, that's right.
How's that fun here?
Sense of humor. Okay, well, this was at last year's PGA Championship at Southern Hills in Tulsa, and it's strange only because it was sort of uniquely, I guess, unfair in a way. Corey Pavin on Sunday was playing the 6th hole, which was a par 3, and he had a pretty good tee shot into a greenside bunker, and he had only a short approach shot out of this bunker to the flagstick. But to his left and sort of behind was a water hazard. And his caddy, who actually was kind of a fill-in caddy for the week, picked up Corey's golf bag and set it near this water hazard, and also picked up the bunker rake because he was going to rake the bunker. And Corey played this shot out of the bunker, a real delicate bunker shot that just didn't quite get onto the green, landed on the fringe, and it started to roll down the bank toward the water hazard. So Corey said to his caddy, pick up the clubs and pick up the rake. And although under the rules Corey's caddy could pick up the clubs, he wasn't permitted to pick up the rake. And I know you're probably thinking, well, that's kind of ridiculous, isn't it? But think about this for a minute. Other than clubs and a flagstick, you don't want to be moving a lot of things while your ball is in motion that might influence its movement. In other words, because then you could put a 2x4 down and deflect your ball, and you could do all kinds of things like that. So anyway, so Corey tells the caddy, pick up the clubs and pick up the rake. So he picks up the clubs, which was okay. He picks up the rake, which was not okay. But he picked up the rake, thereby allowing this ball to roll down into the water hazard. So not only does Corey have the 1-stroke penalty for the ball being in the water hazard, he has an additional 2-stroke penalty for moving the rake while his ball is in motion.
The ball was touching the rake?
No, the ball rolled down and his caddy moved the rake, allowing the ball to roll into the water. So the official on the hole, great rules official from Pennsylvania, Tom Karpus, walks out onto the putting green and explains, you know, Corey, I'm sorry, but I got to explain this to you. And of course, Corey really can't comprehend it. Then he says, I want a second opinion. So here comes John Paramore from the European PGA Tour. Big John comes in. He says, Corey, you know, here, I've got to explain this to you. In the meantime, the caddy had laid the rake back down. Tim Herron, who's over the green, chips his ball too hard, it rolls down the bank and hits the rake. So lucky Tim Herron. He gets a break. So I'm the chairman of the 2007 PGA Championship, so John Paramore calls on my cell phone, because I'm sort of around the administrative area, and he says, I'm going to put you on this cell phone and we're going to talk to Corey. So what I told Corey was, look, I know you think this is unusual, but why don't you do this? Because by this time a group had already played through that. 2 rules officials. So I said, look, Corey, why don't you do this? I'll go to the CBS truck and I'll watch the video, knowing all along that this was actually quite a simple ruling. And I said, look, you accept your penalty and I'll meet you in scoring and then we'll talk about it. But in that way, I got him to start playing again as much as he couldn't accept it, and found a way to, you know, placate him for a while, until I met him in scoring. But we're good friends. We're actually pretty good friends now.
Are you at a tournament every week, Mark?
No, I actually, you know, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that I make my living as the golf professional at Watermark Country Club, and I've been there 27 years. So week in and week out, it's my pleasure to serve all those Watermark members, and that's how I make my living. And that's been really one of the greatest parts of my career. And I know you mentioned this earlier, a lot of people who like golf do envy this, because I've had this conversation with people that if you were a golf fan and you could think as a spectator that in the course of your lifetime you could go to the Masters, the Senior PGA, the US Open, the British Open, the PGA Championship, and the Ryder Cup, you'd think you were pretty lucky. And I realize I'm pretty lucky because I'll have officiated at all 5 and have in the recent past, and will continue to do so for a couple more years. It's pretty cool.
You've been blessed to go into the Michigan PGA. What's this mean to go into your hometown Hall of Fame?
Yeah, you're right. I was inducted in the Michigan Golf Hall of Fame last year, but to become a member of the Grand Rapids Sports Hall of Fame, you know, as a sort of a lifelong resident here, I grew up, went to East Grand Rapids High School, and went to Michigan State, like most of this table over here. And so this is this parking table over here. And you know, too, to think about that when I was a kid, looking at the portraits, and my dad's here tonight, looking at the portraits in the East Hall of the Civic Auditorium of the original inductees, people like Terry Barr, and talking to my dad about that. Terry Barr, John Barnum, Harold Worst, Marion Ladwig, and having that conversation with my dad, you know, back at that time, little did I know that I'd ever end up here in 2008. So, I mean, I can't tell you what a great thrill it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Wilson.